first off, Jensen, I'll start with you first, because we learn a bit about kind of, Meacham's health issues and kind of like what he's been going through. How do you think all of this kind of impacts the way that he shows up for this task force and how that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the season?
I like the twist because it's not just, I think we're used to seeing sometimes these characters, they're just crazy. So that's why they act so cavalier and that's why they act like a maverick and, and have problems with authority and all that stuff. It's just because they're wired that way.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's a reason behind him acting the way that he does, and harboring this kind of deadly secret. And it does give him, and it gives him, and of course the audience knows, but it gives him the ability to act out and to take risks and to take chances and put his team in maybe dire situations that he wouldn't normally do if he wasn't on his way out, so to speak. And
Yeah.
so I liked that little twist to the character and what it brought to the story. It was definitely something that hooked me from the beginning when Derek was telling me about the story.
I also think what's great about your character is you allow for the mythology to develop around you, where a lot of the character sort of traits come from the way others are reacting to you and the stories that others tell about you.
Mm,
Specifically, my character and the task force we had prior to the one that I've set up
right.
currently.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of that, Eric, we learned that your character has run several task force. And then we also learned in the first episode that like this weren't just a group of star pupils who were assembled. They were assembled for a reason. Because more than likely people would more likely not miss them in their in their prior roles. So how do you think just that sort of knowing that, how do you think that impacts his leadership style within this specific group of people?
Well, it's very risky. I've assembled a group of people who are uniquely qualified to investigate um, the crime,
Yeah.
um, but they're also kind of like wild cards.
Mhm.
So at any time, if one of them goes off the rails, the buck stops here.
Hmm.
So I have to make sure that not only have I assembled this great team, but are they going to keep it together? Are they going to work well with others? Are they going to get along in the
And
sandbox?
that was just offset. That wasn't even that. Just try to keep us in line offset, not to mention on camera.
And then also like, everybody has something to prove too, whether that's, like you're a third generation FBI agent, whether you've had issues at your prior place, whether you have like interesting work-life balance, such as with Lucas's character. I feel like everyone's kind of bringing something, but every character's bringing something different, and how that all may fit in is kind of like it could fit in anyway.
Yeah, I think it's cool actually that we've taken from all branches of law enforcement uh,
Yeah.
and sort of gelled them into this one sort of really kind of unique task force.
I
Yeah.
like the window into the personal aspect of these characters too, because you're not just seeing them in their professional gear and in their professional mode working together. You really get a sense of who these people are outside of the office and outside of when the badge isn't on. And I think that everybody's coming from a lot of different departments, but they're all coming from a lot of different walks of life and a lot of different life experiences. And I think that kind of blend of differences is what makes this kind of a really unique dish.
I was kind of gagged when I saw Milo Ventimiglia was going to be like, I was like, I didn't see him cast in the show, so I know he's not going to be here with us that long. Why do you think he was the perfect person to kind of jumpstart this journey in this series and to be like, for lack of a better term, our like opening kill in Countdown?
Yeah, if you've met Milo, what you get in 2 seconds of meeting him, and also 2 seconds of meeting him on screen, is this warmth and this personality and this like depth of character that makes audiences like him right from the jump. And if we weren't going to be around him very long, as you pointed out, I thought that was so important. But the second half of that is that he's got an action stars mentality. So
Yeah.
he goes right from really great character to cool action, star in the same scene. So it was the perfect, opening.
No, it was great. I don't think I've ever been that attached to a character that dies so soon. I was like,
Good.
no, I was like, we're gonna take him to the hospital. Like someone's gonna like I was running through scenarios in my head. So I
Yeah.
don't think he was a perfect person for that. And you've been behind, so many uh broadcast procedurals. Like, also Justice for Chicago Justice. I think it should have aired much longer than what it did. But
Agreed.
what was it like going from that world to now and this like grittier project for streaming just because you've been in that world for so long.
Yeah, well, as my mother will tell you, I got to cuss for the first time in 15 years of making television, which was which was fun. But sorry, Mom. But no, it is a little grittier. It is a little more resources to do some, cool action. I've been lucky enough my whole career to get to work with great crews and great stunts. So it was awesome that the show got backed so well by Amazon that they had us. Sorry, Jensen just came in. You're not allowed to come in on this.
Listen, I'm coming right in.
Oh, okay.
I'm
All
coming
right.
right in.
Well, good to see you, brother. Awesome. Anyway, sorry about that interruption. Give him an extra minute. Yeah, so it's been you get to do everything just a little bit bigger, a little bit grittier, and that makes for exciting, television.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, so we're talking to the end of episode 3, but not episode 4 yet. So we're in episode 3. We see what appears to be another death. If can you what can you speak to that without talking about episode 4 and how that may kind of impact the future of the task force and how the task force members kind of process this.
Yeah, I grew up watching television where every show episode ended and it would reset back to exactly where you were before. So when they left, you were never really that worried about the danger that might be represented. And so I always love to surprise, shock the audience. Sometimes they get really mad at me, but I like to remind you that these are dangerous jobs and that bad things can happen when you're, on the front lines of doing some very, dangerous operations. So episode 3 is going to have a shocking ending, and you'll just have to see where it goes from there.
I do like that because sometimes I feel like when you're watching TV, like in something that's high stakes is this, like you don't want to suspend your disbelief for like too much. You want to think like, okay, if someone's could die very easily, we can't like suspend it too much. We don't want people to die, but we also don't want to be able to like, okay, is this realistic? So that shows
Exactly.
heightens the stakes.
And I think I want the audience on the edge of their seat the whole time. That's really my goal. And the way to do that where they can't lean back is that they don't know at any moment. And in any episode, something might pop off. So I try to surprise everyone.
Meacham and Oliveira's relationship is one that's kind of, even in these 3 episodes, there's ups and downs. It's a little bit cold. It's a little bit, okay, I see where you're coming from. And it seems like out of all of the task force members, they kind of have a lot of commonalities with each
Yeah.
other. So how would you say their dynamic kind of evolves throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, it's definitely starts off very tenuous. I think for her, she's very clear. I don't trust you, and that means like I'm not going to mess with you. You stay
Yeah.
out of my way, we'll be just fine. And he does not stay out of her way. In fact, he very much is in her face and in her way. And I think, like you said, like you identified, there are these similarities that they can sense within one another that they don't quite know how they feel about. They don't know what to do with that. It's a kind of charge that they feel. But as, things progress, as they're forced to work alongside one another, forced to, they can't help but identify more of like makes them what makes them them in terms of like their moral inner code of ethics, what drives them, what they value. Like they're both willing to sacrifice. They're both willing to give everything they have to what they believe in, and they're both willing to have each other's back. And so this mutual respect grows. But that doesn't mean that the tension goes away. In fact, it very much does not. It gets more complex.
Yeah, yeah. I think my favorite scene was when Mark almost shoots Lucas, and then he's like, "Oh, you almost killed me." And
It's
then
so
LeBaron's like,
good.
that was a good shot. That was a good shot to
It's
me.
such a good scene.
It's
It's one of my
really funny.
favorite. Like you just see this totally different color of
Yeah.
you and Amber, and it's like it's so good.
Because she loves the excitement. She loves the
Yeah.
adrenaline. That's kind of like why she does this. She lives for it. And she's like, "Oh my God, that was a really good
Yeah.
time."
He's like, now you're
And
talking
Luke's
about
like,
like
I almost died.
Yeah, yeah. I have a family. This is not
Yeah.
chill. Yeah.
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 And Violet, for you, Shepard is just, she's just so ready to go. And another one of my favorite scenes is the car ride you have with Eric Dane, where, she's just like, she's ready to, just like fill him in like how ready she is. And he's like, I just wanted to, do paperwork because that's why I'm not driving.
Yes.
So how do you
Yeah.
think that sort of, eager personality is going to carry her within the task force as well?
Yeah, it's so, I mean, it was the first thing that I read and knew about Evan, obviously, as like rookie of the year, greener than green. Like she is, she has so much to prove coming in. But pretty quickly, I think she kind of finds her ground and she's like, she's learning to use her voice. She's learning to like be proud of the things that she is able to bring to the task force. And yeah, I think for me, I definitely kind of, when I was younger, just sort of like jumped the gun on that. And I was just kind of like, I was kind of like, no, I'm here for better or worse. So it has been really interesting to like learn. Maybe it is a good idea to kind of show up and test the waters
Right.
and learn about things before you
Without
jump right
bulldozing
in.
your way.
Yes, yes. So that's been fun and interesting.
I can imagine little you. I'm here.
Yeah.
Here I am. What are we doing?
Here's my dance.
Uli, I'll start with you first. Your character is kind of the primary person in these first episodes where we kind of see that work-life balance with the people on this task force and how that really impacts him. How do you think for your character, all of this kind of impacts the way that he shows up to work, especially in this high-stakes environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think he comes in with understanding the risk, and it's more than just himself. He carries the weight of his family and that kind of thing, and that's always, I mean, for me personally, that's a big driving point to what I do as an actor. And I think it's similar to Luke, although he is very much business minded and focused on the task, and sometimes he gets overwhelmed. Sometimes he forgets about his uh, not about his family, but I guess his presence. Um, but yeah, he carries the weight and the love of his family very much at the forefront.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Elliot, for you, Keontae is kind of like he's like a FBI Nepo baby of sorts, I think. Kind of and it's one thing that we learned about him in these first three episodes. How do you think that sort of shapes the way he kind of approaches things? So it feels like it's always interesting when you have a leg up of sorts in any sort of way, and how that either it usually makes you want to prove yourself even more. I feel.
Mm,
So how do you think that works with him?
great question. Thank you. I actually love this aspect of his story because on the one hand, yes, he is following a legacy of his family being FBI agents, and you could see it as him sort of having a head start or an easy way into doing it, but this is something he's genuinely passionate about and dedicated to. What I find the most fascinating about that aspect of his story, the question is for me, is he driven to continue the legacy? Is he driven to impress who's come before him? Or does he find himself continually under a shadow he's trying to escape and run away from? Is he
Yeah.
trying to break free and do something different that hasn't been achieved before? And I love that in the show, and as we'll see, Keontae refers to his father being an agent and his grandfather was an agent, but we don't actually know the relationship that they had together.
Hmm.
And there's every chance that actually maybe it seems like something that couldn't be further from the truth. We'll have to find
Yeah,
out.
yeah, no, it's interesting because you think that like there, I feel like anytime we typically see like law enforcement families on TV, it tends to be complicated.
Mhm.
So I'm interested to see how that may continue to play out.
We're actually brothers on the show.
Yes, that will, but that is a spoiler, but that's fine. We're happy about it,
Yeah.
so we want people to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see the similarities?
I'm sat on like two cushions, so we look relatively the same height because I did look like his son about half an hour ago.